My Pokemon journey began one cool evening in 2007 with Pokemon Pearl in a tent in my neighbor's backyard, a mountain of pillows and blankets atop an air mattress beneath us. He taught me how to play the game, as he had a lot more experience than I did, even teaching me the secret to catching any Pokemon, mashing A when the ball closes. I started with Chimchar, setting a precedent for most of my playthroughs starting with the Fire type. Out of all the Pokemon games, which I've had most of since, I remember Gen 4 the most fondly of any of them, as many people my age seem to. It was my first, and Pearl, Platinum, and Soul Silver are the reasons I still love the franchise to this day. Sinnoh captured my attention. Soul Silver taught me there was so much more to Pokemon than even just that. Kanto is timeless, of course, but Johto is new, at least to me. And now my partners would walk behind me. That was probably the greatest part. Then Black and White came out, and I remember I wanted Zekrom more than Reshiram, but I wanted Black more than White. They switched up so you could only have one or the other. I ended up getting White for Zekrom, and I beat that one no problem. I never got Black 2 or White 2, I've heard they're great, but I just didn't understand a sequel, so I didn't buy into it. Then came along X and Y. I can't say I was uninterested, but something definitely wasn't calling out to me as much as it had in the past. I thought the jump to 3D was really cool, and I remember I played it for a few hours the day I got it. I started with a Fennekin, who I named Mozilla, and I later got a Charmander, but to be honest, that's about all I remember of this generation. Then Sun and Moon came out, and I was convinced to get it by a friend. To this day, I still haven't gotten past the first route. Ultra Sun and Moon went the same way as Black and White 2, they were sequels, so I didn't get them. Then we come to... I dug the idea of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but it took me a while to pick it up. I didn't feel super inclined to get it, I don't think it felt necessary to go back to Kanto all over again. But eventually, Target had a short sale where you could get the Pokeball Plus and the game for like $45, so I decided I had to hop on it. I played maybe half of it, but not much more. I love that Pokemon follow you around again, and I love that they roam around the overworld. It feels natural, and it feels like a good step for the franchise. But then... Dexgate devastated me. I was looking for something new in the franchise, and while yes, the wild area was a tease for a more open-world Pokemon experience, there was just too much wrong, at least objectively, for me to have any interest. So I did what so many said they would do, and I boycotted this generation. A few days before Christmas last year, my mom and I walked into a GameStop where I mentioned that I really wasn't interested in getting this year's Pokemon game. As it turns out, she had already gotten me the double pack. So I felt terrible, but she knew and she returned it for Link's Awakening, so that works. Earlier this year, Nintendo announced a DLC expansion for the game, and I gotta be honest, I've been coming around more recently. They're adding in more Pokemon that they left out originally, and they're adding in a whole lot more substance, which I've heard from reviews that the base game is lacking. I don't know, maybe I'll be swayed if they're reviewed well and they hit a good sale or something. However, it should go without saying that if/when they announce remakes of Gen 4, I will pre-order the ever-living shit out of them. No power in the verse could stop me from getting them. So, where am I going with all this? One of the biggest things about Pokemon since its very inception has been about bringing people together while sharing these cute little monsters. They've always put out 2 of each generation, Red and Blue, Diamond and Pearl, X and Y. Let alone making consumers buy both if they want the full experience, it encourages communication between those who don't want to buy both games. If you want to catch them all, you gotta buy them both, or trade with someone who did. Basically, non-cynically, Pokemon is as much about communication as it is catching monsters, and one of the most important innovations that the series utilized, save for its original use of the link cable, was Wi-Fi. Nintendo Wi-Fi Connection, or WFC, was introduced with the Nintendo DS, thus its usage in Pokemon came about with Generation 4. Within the games was a location known as the Global Terminal, home to the Global Trading System, or GTS. Unfortunately, the service was lost when the Nintendo WFC was shut down in 2014. In its prime though, trainers from all over the world could interact, battle, and trade their Pokemon, bringing a new form of communication to a franchise that previously required 2 people to be in the same room. From link cables on playgrounds to Wi-Fi battles in one's own bedroom, this communication between players paved the way for more and more in the years to come. Another aspect of Wi-Fi connection is the idea of mystery gifts. Handed out through GameStops, Toys R Us's, and other retailers, players could go to this location with their DS and receive an item or a special event Pokemon that they wouldn't be able to receive any other way. Something interesting to note, Arceus, the creator of all Pokemon and one of my favorites, was never actually attainable in-game, and to this day, still isn't. It was coded into Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum as attainable through an event item known as the Azure Flute. The item was never actually released, thus making the Pokemon unobtainable. Today, dedicated fans have come together and discovered servers where event Pokemon still reside and are still possible to access through mystery gifts. It requires some odd trickery, but through using a specific DNS setting in their Wi-Fi, anyone can access these mystery gifts, even though the original servers have been shut down for years. From generations 5 through 7, this connectivity was ran through a service known as the Global Link, similar to the GTS in functionality but revamped for the new generation. In the 6th generation, Pokemon X and Y introduced the player search system, where you could directly interact with other players straight from your inventory. Along with this functionality came something completely new: Wonder Trading. At any time, you can choose a Pokemon you wish to Wonder Trade, and the PSS would match you with another trainer somewhere in the world. Then, the two would switch Pokemon with no idea of what was on the other side.
TJ from the United States of Florida. What you got for me, dude? Because I'm sending you a super good executor named Shelby that I need you to take very good care of. Another grass type or electric type Pokemon would be really Come on, TJ!
This does not always mean you get a good trade. With the move to the Nintendo Switch, online functionality got a little bit more conventional. That is to say, more in line with what Xbox and PlayStation has been doing for a while. Nintendo Switch Online is a step in the right direction, though it must be said that the servers are hell. And based on my intentionally limited experience, it's really difficult to play anything more than Animal Crossing and Minecraft. But I have no real ground to stand on when talking about Sword and Shield, so I'll just leave my complaints right there. There are two things that I haven't really mentioned yet that are really important in terms of bringing people together. First, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee brought couch co-op to Pokemon for the first time, unless I suppose you count two people playing next to each other on a couch, in which case they've had it since the start. But in Let's Go's case, players can drop in and out at any time and help you catch Pokemon and fight in trainer battles. I've played Let's Go Eevee with my girlfriend a couple times, and it is so cool to just run around the overworld with another character running with you. Once again, Let's Go offers a tease at a first step to a wildly impossible but perfect Pokemon game we've all been wanting for years. An open world multiplayer RPG with no limits and just Pokemon everywhere. On that note, 2016 was probably one of the biggest years for the franchise due to the global phenomenon that was Pokémon Go.
We're back now with something that may explain any odd behavior you've seen on the streets recently. The smash hit mobile game app Pokémon Go.
Pokémon Go.
Pokémon Go.
Technically, we got what we wanted. There's never been a more open world than real life. Everyone in the world is playing it, so it doesn't get much more multiplayer than that. And Pokemon are literally everywhere all the time. In a broad sense, Pokemon Go is the perfect Pokemon game. But of course, it strays too far from the Pokemon formula we've all come to love-hate. However, no Pokemon game has brought people together more than Go did. It brought people who had never played the games before, it brought people back who hadn't played in years, and most of all, it gave current players of the game a constant connection to it. I still play Pokemon Go to this day whenever I walk outside for longer than 10 minutes. In 2016, when Go came out, I was on a cross-country road trip with my mom. I still remember every news station and every hotel every morning would talk about the worldwide obsession that was Pokemon Go. I remember being sad that I couldn't play it while we were on the highway because I was moving too fast for any monsters to appear. And above all, I remember being at the Mormon temple in Utah at midnight and seeing hundreds of people all gathered around and running when a new Pokemon they hadn't caught yet appeared. It was beautiful. Long before gym battles and raids and any proper friend system, these people created a little community in the courtyard of the Mormon temple. And I was there too, running to catch a Sandshrew just because someone had called it out in the distance. In that moment, in that vaguely holy space in Utah, it was like we were all in a tent in our neighbor's backyard, learning how to play Pokemon all over again. This franchise brings people together as much as it divides. The decisions of the Pokemon Company are never going to be wholly accepted by all, but it is impossible to argue that generation after generation of trainers have been brought together time and time again every time a new game comes out. Even more important is the realization that the franchise has continuously gone away from the idea of just catching to complete the Pokedex, and has started focusing more on building relationships with and caring for your Pokemon partners. Friendship evolutions, Pokemon Ami, Pokemon Camp, 24 years into Pokemon's lifespan, and now, more than ever, we understand the power that's inside.